the point that you just said is, is different. And, as a counselor working with students and working with families, working with staff members, this is not normal. And, I would just kind of encourage everybody just to have compassion and whatever level you're at, if you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator, to just understand that this is not normal, and to have a philosophy as business as usual. I really think that we need to think about mental health and what that means as far as, how we still try to continue our work, because it is a difficult time. And I just think we just kind of need to keep that at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it helps to know what works for you. Because I know for me, I've taken some incompletes, which will give me up to a year to complete the work that I wasn't able to do in the time. So I know my school offers that. And just knowing what works for me kind of helps so that I can do the best that I can in those classes. So most definitely. And the teachers are usually understanding, especially with a time like this.
Halima, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. Well, some of the challenges I'm currently having as a student is lack of motivation. I feel like the work is very optional because, as I told you, Jayla, that I'm a person who has to see like a physical textbook, and then I have to be in a classroom to actually do my work. So with this whole transitioning going on, I feel like I'm unable to do it because I don't really have the setting or the atmosphere or, other students that inspire me to really do my work. And then another challenge I'm currently having right now is I feel like certain questions that I ask my professors, there's a miscommunication. So I feel like if it was in person, they would be able to understand it better, because I noticed in text, it might come out one way, but then the other person may interpret it another way.
Mm.
Yeah, something like a problem that I've had because of COVID is financial reasons, because I had my apartment till August, so I had to still pay rent for an empty room, and I'm still paying rent, so that kind of sucks. And something that's changed is the teacher's office hours. My teachers, usually for math, I would go right after class to her office hours every day, so because she'll tutor a lot of the students, and that doesn't happen anymore because she has to take care of her kids that are home now. But yeah, lack of motivation, because I would just I'm just waking up, opening my laptop and taking notes, and I don't really go outside as much, so like I used to, and talk to other students on my way to class.
Thank you. Mariah, might you chime in on how this might be different for you as a high school senior preparing to go off to college?
Yeah. So I think just the first sentiment that I can kind of agree with everyone is just the overall lack of motivation to be doing things. But then I think what comes along with that is a lot of mental health challenges, because I don't know, for me, I'm a student where I feel like I'm so used to, at least this school year, because senior year was very busy, to always be doing something. So with that lack of productivity, there's a lot of, I think, guilt associated with it that kind of makes things even more challenging right now. But I think just in terms of being a senior who's supposed to be making very big life decisions right now, because a lot of this started happening when we were starting to hear back from schools we applied to and things like that. I think that it's definitely caused me and a lot of my peers to kind of think differently about our future plans. I know for me, it was, even though I knew I wanted to go out of state for college and that's what I plan on doing, it was something I had to consider a little bit more deeply with what's going on. And also just having to kind of set aside a lot of plans and just goals in terms of college decisions because of this. And then I think too, thinking of options that I probably wouldn't have considered before, deferring my enrollment for a year and certain things like that, or thinking about taking a gap year, things that I've never really considered, but because of what's going on, I think I've just been kind of thinking differently about a lot of the plans I've had set in stone for a few years now. So I think it's just been stressful in that sense, having to make, there's a lot of pressure on seniors right now to be making these decisions. And I think this is probably one of the worst times that you can be making like a very like life altering decision. So I think it's just been very stressful in that regard.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay, for me, the biggest challenge will be like motivation again, because we don't have that academic, or we don't have like well, we have online tutors, but if you're like me, I'm an in-person, learner, and I like to talk to people in person. That's how I gain knowledge. But just not having that motivation, having people or just resources on campus to motivate you. Like if you're in a lot of organizations like me, like at GRCC, like MIA, TRIO, they make sure that they motivate you, having that safe place to go to. I used to always be at GRCC. I rarely came home, because I feel like I get my work done better at GRCC, because at home, it's just a lot of stuff going on.
There's TRIO at GRCC, right?
Yeah.
Is that Josh?
Hi guys, if you can mute your mic, we can hear you. Someone.
Vicky, what's Vicky's last name? All right. All right, I got a student on this call that's a student at GRCC in TRIO. So.
Hey, Mr. Armstrong. Hey, can you mute your mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. All right, go ahead,
I was just trying to make sure all the kids were connected, because my wife is a TRIO director at GVSU. Sorry. Yep.
Wow. As I was saying, like not having that the resources on campus, and just having that motivation, I feel like that plays a huge role. Just not having that support from staff, faculty members plays a huge role in this pandemic.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So really, it sounded like all 5 of you really touched on this lack of motivation, or having this motivation challenge. What are some things that you found, or that you've exercised, or that your peers may have told you about, that help you get motivated, or has worked to get you more motivated than you were before?
That's a good question. I feel like sometimes this is bad, but sometimes eating helps, because depending on what it is I'm doing, it's kind of hard to focus. And if usually, like, because you know how you might be in class, and then you might have a snack with you in class, even though you're probably not supposed to have the snack with you, but eating helps you stay focused and woke and alert. I feel like that helps. Or like if I procrastinate enough, and then I realize how long I've procrastinated, and just having everything like organized and set up, ready to be done after that period of procrastination helps. Taking little breaks and kind of not thinking about it as a whole, but having list help, or even if you don't have the list, but seeing yourself turn in something, you're like, oh yeah, I did that. And then you start turning in more and more. It's very motivational, because you're so close, you're getting all the work in. But also most definitely being around people that are also working. So having the group chats that you might have, those sometimes help, but they're a little bit harder to help sometimes depending on the situation or what you're working on. But also changing your environment that you're in, because I know it was really hard for me to start working until I went over to a friend's house, and then that's when it was I started getting my work done more. And even if I go over to the friend's house and do the work, when I came back, I was still able to complete the work afterwards, because there's assignments that were due months, and changing that environment from home helped me get it done.
Okay.
Um, what has helped me is, for example, like my psychology class, we usually call around like the same hours as my psychology class is scheduled. So we'll go on like a group FaceTime and then we'll do the work together. And then aside from my psychology class, I'm a third shifter, so I'll do my work later at night, which helps me a lot, like which helps me focus a lot because there's no background noise. And yeah, I usually sleep throughout the day.
I like that. I'm a third shifter. Todd, look what you've started. So, uh, Halima, you mentioned that you guys would get on a call around the same time that your psychology class was normally scheduled in person. Is that something that your professor is leading, or is that something that students are leading?
No, that's just something because in the middle, well, the beginning of the semester, I had trouble with some of like the psychology courses. So it was, well, some of the psychology content. And I would felt like my exams like back to back. So we formed this group chat and it was like 5 different students, including me. And now what we do, well, before we used to just like, okay, if you want to meet up to study, we can do that. Now what we actually do is like we study during the hours that were scheduled during class.
All right. In Are there anyone else just kind of what keeps you motivated during this time, or what have you found?
Wait, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, the question you just answered about motivation.
Um,
No.
Honestly, no, I'm sorry.
No, okay. No, that's fine. I just wanted to throw in this other question, and can you
That's
maybe
the only thing that really helps me at the moment to be more motivated because I'm seeing other students work. So yeah.
okay, thanks. Kenya, can you answer this question? What are some things that you do at home to set your atmosphere for work?
Yeah, I usually go to the living room, but I make sure people, like my parents, know that I'm working and doing homework, so like don't turn on the TV. So that kind of helps. But that's about it. I can't really do much because I have 2 brothers that are working too. My little brother's doing homework, and sometimes the Wi-Fi goes a little slow because of that. So yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of us are doing work later, um, or taking on that third shift. So because it's quiet in the house. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Someone said that's great that you set boundaries at home, and your family is helping you out with that. That you can let them know you're studying and they respect that.
Yeah, they do. I had a problem like 2 nights ago that I had to submit an assignment and the Wi-Fi was going really slow, but I think it's because my little brother was playing games. And I'm like, can you please turn it off? But I turned it in late, but the professor still gave extended the time for me because she understood that the Wi-Fi was, not working.
Yeah. Anyone else having that issue with Wi-Fi or other people in the house being on it and then it gets spotty? Yeah.
Yes. I think yesterday, like, something happened with, like, I think someone did something to a pole or an animal got into a pole, but the Wi-Fi went down. And I was like, oh, that's not good because I have something due. But they ended up fixing it, so that was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a lot of people on at the same time kind of messes with it because sometimes I'll be like in a work call and then it'll just cut out and I'll be like, why isn't it working? But yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah, it's a real struggle. Yes. So this question is for Mariah. Do you feel comfortable with communication on expectations from GRPS?
I think that I have a general idea of the expectations, but I think with my peers and I, we're still a little bit confused on when the distance learning is in place, like what that entails. And like for seniors specifically, I think that's just like the confusing thing on like what's going to be expected of us. So I've been like keeping up on the communication, but I think I'm personally just still a little bit confused on how like the requirements go for that. Um, but yeah, that's my only thing. I've been like keeping up on it, but I feel comfortable with the general information, but just of the specifics, I guess I'm just a little bit still confused about.
Hey, Shirley, can I jump in to kind of answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so real quick, great question. So we are, after we heard from the from the governor as far as the executive decision to totally shut schools down, we start to look at what seniors in good standing should have. So we're identifying seniors on two things: on track seniors and off track seniors. And to be on track, you should have an average range of 17 to 19 credits at this point. What we are looking to do is to award students who have completed the Michigan Merit Curriculum. Those are 18 credits, and those are your core classes, and they're exclusive of your elective classes. So right now, seniors who are in good standings should have at least 17 credits completed of the Michigan Merit Curriculum. And I'm pretty sure for all seniors who are on the line right now, you guys were currently enrolled in English 12 and a fourth year of mathematics. So we're looking at the grades that you currently have in those. We just have letters as of yesterday. So letters will be going out to you to inform you of your on-track and off-track status. And if you are in either one of those boats, there'll be things that you'll either need to complete or you'll simply be finished. And also, if you have any questions, I meet with counselors every Friday, but your counselors are up, they're working, they're ready to hear from you. So if you haven't heard from them, simply send them an email and they can pinpoint exactly where your status is. And if you have any questions, you can ask me as well, because I know where your status is as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think like the only I think disconnect with my peers was like there were some teachers who were still like expecting, not necessarily expecting, but kind of like giving students some like optional stuff to do, and I think that's kind of why students were confused about like what were the requirements and just things like that. But that makes a lot of sense and that's helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, no, your question is valid, and we have a meeting today, so we can talk about that, because us as employees, we're asking our upper leadership, is the work a requirement or is it optional for our seniors, right? Do we just have a hard stop with seniors who have passed third marking period grades, or is it optional work to make sure that you guys are still ready for college and career after you officially graduate? So that's a question that's on the table. There's some debate going back and forth, and we look to have that resolved no later than this Monday, April 27th.
All right. Thank you for that, Emmanuel and Mariah. And Tony, thank you for that question. Also, the second part of that question, for those who are in college, do you feel like you get enough clear communication from the college or university that you're attending regarding your expectations and other things? So, Sayron, you want to start us off with?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yep. So do you feel that you get enough clear communication from the college that you attend regarding like your expectations, your academic expectations, other things?
Yes and no, because some professors make it clear, but others you have to reach out to them to like make it clear. So like some of my professors, I have to ask them like, did you get this work? Did you get this? Or what's the expectation on this? and they'll let me know. But others just automatically post it on Blackboard. I want this, this, this done. This is your expectations. So it varies.
And Sayron, you had an interesting experience when you were communicating with your professors about what you needed from them, or how you didn't have access to something that would prevent you from being successful in class. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't have access to internet until like 2 weeks ago, honestly. So I really couldn't do as much online work, but I'll do everything in my power to do online work. Like I'll go to like a friend's house, like Halima House, for instance, and I'll do work over there, or just go elsewhere to do my online work. And some of my professors were understanding, but others was like, no, this is what I expect from you, and this is what you should do. And I don't care if you don't have, internet at home, make a way. So I think that was a barrier as well, not having an understanding through students and professors.
Thank you. Okay, so I think those are, okay. So I'm wondering, we've kind of talked about the challenges and things that we're facing and some harsh realities that are happening right now in this pandemic. And I think, Emmanuel, you made a really great point, and I believe Dr. Lovelady Mitchell mentioned this to me, that we're not just working from home. Students aren't just doing school from home, but they're trying to do school from home during a pandemic. And so, there's a lot of grace that has to be extended to, professors, to students, and all of the above, as we're all trying to make these very hard decisions on the fly. And so moving forward, what are some resources that might be helpful for you and your peers at this time? And then I also want you to touch on how can the T2C studio be of assistance, or what can we do, create, extend to be helpful during this time?
I think for the T2C studio to be helpful or more helpful to students is kind of having those online study sessions or groups where if a student needs help with homework, they can hop on at this time, because I know not every student might have access to something like that, especially if they're not in a program like TRIO or the MLK program, but they still might have similar struggles as us if we are in those programs. And then I think also if T2C Studio utilize their social medias more, I know with the Instagram, there's occasional scholarship posts, but I think it'd be cool to see different motivational things popping up to encourage students and different things like that.
Nice.
Going back to one of the challenges that I'm facing, I forgot to mention that I'll be transferring in the fall, but even though I've been admitted and everything, I don't know what to do from this point, I guess, with the whole pandemic. A resource or something that the studio could provide is probably bringing a representative from the school to help me complete the certain guidelines that I need before transferring, because I know when I checked my email for Western a few weeks back, they said I had to meet with the counselor, an in-person session before scheduling housing. And then, but I don't know how they're going to approach the situation now. So I feel just being able to have that representative who helps me go through it one by one would be helpful.
Thank you.
Is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the T2C studio should put students, especially transfer students or high school seniors that are going to college, put them together with another student that goes to that college already, so that they can ask questions to the student, because there's no campus tours going on, so that'll be helpful.
Gotcha.
Is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I agree with Unique about the social media thing. I think that a lot of the resources that I've found out about what's like just helpful resources for students like me during this time or just teenagers in general, I found a lot of them like on Instagram and things like that. So I think just like how on the website there's like the resources for families for like Kent County. I think that reiterating that on the Instagram page where more students can see it would be helpful, and also making it very clear through Instagram, but also through email, like that the virtual advising system, like the like how on the website you can register for like a virtual session. I think just reiterating that that's a resource that's available to students. And I think something too, like, is the seniors, like, we're going through stuff right now, but I think that the juniors are as well. And I think it could be helpful because since for a lot of them, the stress of college is on their mind so much earlier because a lot of their plans to kind of get ready for the application season have been halted. And I think it could be helpful. And like, I'd even be willing to like help with this if like some seniors who got help from T2C Studio this year were willing to like talk on some virtual call like this with juniors who are feeling a little bit uneasy about the application season ahead, and just kind of, I think it could be helpful for them to talk to seniors and just kind of get some insight on how we were helped by T2C Studio and the resources that are available for them. Because I think like what kind of gets lost with kind of what's going on in seniors is that juniors are going to be equally affected by it because their whole process is getting interrupted as well. So I think it could be helpful for seniors to kind of help the juniors or junior students who are interested in potentially getting help from T2C Studio, just kind of like being there for them as well. Because I don't know, I think that would make me feel better about what's going on, is like trying to help other students and like trying to minimize the stress for them, even though I'm going through a lot as well. So I think that could be helpful.
I think what would be helpful is like weekly check-ins. So I don't know if you guys do the text message, like message services. Well, I know you guys do that, but just texting them with motivational words and just check on like every week, like how are you? What did you get done? You know, just being that extra support, emotional support for students, and just seeing how their progress is, and if they're lacking in something, just help them. Like, okay, this is what I'm lacking on, and if you can connect me to any college representatives, that would be great. Just checking in on students weekly. I think that would be really beneficial to students.
Awesome. I have to say, these are some amazing suggestions and ideas and thoughts, and you really have given us a lot to think about as far as what we should be doing, especially with the lack of motivation being something for all 5 of you, So we're going to continue to develop some of your ideas and some things that we had too. And so we just appreciate you lending your time to be able to share in this. And I'm just looking at the chat. It looks like, okay, Unique and Halima are talking. All right, Omar is heading out. So just thank you guys for that. Is there any I want to end with this question, but I also want to incorporate this question that Carolina has. So you mentioned sharing resources on other social media platforms. Can you give example of which platforms? So I want to incorporate that into this question, but how can we celebrate students in college during this pandemic? Like, how can we contribute to the positive message that needs to be circulated around your guys's like perseverance, and also like the importance of going to college and getting there and getting through? So can you share just some ideas on how we could celebrate students in college during this time? And then can you give us, when you say social media platforms, can you give us some examples of which platforms you're talking about? I know you said Instagram, but are there any other ones? So, and if you have some, you don't have to answer this because this is off the docket, but if you have something, please share.
For some students or for some schools, something, or at least with Western, depending on like the department that they're in, at least for their seniors, they've been doing these posts to recognize them in some way and that they're graduating. And that's been on Instagram, but you can probably, you probably use Facebook as well. Facebook and Instagram, I feel, are best used for those types of things.
Okay.
I have something to add as well. I think Facebook plays a huge role because everybody's on Facebook, especially like students in our day and age. And I think honestly, highlighting students, kind of like student of the month, but it's not like student of the month. Just highlight, say, you can post on the T2C page, we're highlighting the unique, she goes to Western, and then just sharing her accomplishments, and then doing a quote, a motivational quote at the end, and be like, you got this, you can do this. And I feel like that plays a huge part too. I feel like that's going to motivate students to keep going and being more, I think that would be more they'll be more motivated. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so kind of building off of what they said, so there is something that pretty much every senior class, I know from all the high schools, they're doing the posts, the celebratory posts. So for my school, I'm helping out with the account, and basically we're just trying to honor students that way, because if we were at school, we'd all be honoring each other. So I think just trying to figure out how to translate those celebrations virtually. And I know something we talked about, Shayla, was the college mixer. And I think that that is something we could try doing virtually. And it could be, like I mentioned earlier, a mix of seniors and juniors. So we can celebrate the seniors, and then the juniors can kind of see what kind of help that the T2C studio was to us when we were going through this process. So I think of not only limiting it to college students and celebrating them, but also opening it up to younger students to kind of be there to celebrate and also get inspired by the accomplishments of, the seniors. And I think that doing it over something like this, or I think that's kind of just trying to figure out a way to keep these things the same idea, but just trying to translate it virtually. So I think that that's something that definitely should stay in place, something like that where we can connect people, because I think that that's just the best thing we can do with any of this, is just connecting people in whatever way we can. I know for me personally, if it weren't for different calls like this and things that I've been doing, I wouldn't stay connected with anyone. So I think giving students an opportunity to just connect with others will be really helpful to kind of combat a lot of the I think a lot of the mental health stuff too, and just the stress of everything. I think having these little opportunities to connect in a fun way would just be helpful for whoever wants to do them. So,
yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. So no one mentioned a TikTok dance challenge, decision day challenge. Okay, no one mentioned that.
No, we all want you to do one. Yeah. We want you to do one. No motivation. So
yeah,
we can vote. We can take a vote. Do we want Shayla to do a TikTok for all?
I think, with Tony, Lynn, Shannon, Sue, Travis, Ty, get us all in there. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Shayla. Hey, real quick. Hey, we did create a calendar for senior events for the month of April, and we're doing one right now for the month of May. I'll send it to you, and it highlights every day from Monday to Friday, as far as Wind Down Wednesdays, TikTok Thursdays, Flashback Fridays. We got a senior week coming up where we'll celebrate senior spirit. College shirt day, everything all the way up to prom. So I'll get that to you, Shayla, and maybe you can send it out and we can have some virtual fun with students as we celebrate our seniors.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Well, I just want to say thank you, ladies, so much again. If you all be clapping it up for you. But we can clap for you virtually. Hopefully you see it. Okay. But we're so grateful for you guys taking time out of your morning to do this with us. And as we continue to grow and develop this information, we'd love to stay connected with you all. And then also, with Juliana's comment, maybe taking some of this feedback and taking it further than our table, but sharing it possibly with our college partners more directly about what you guys are experiencing during this time. So we thank you so much, and feel free to log off the call if you no longer want to be on. That is perfectly fine, and I will follow up with each of you individually, and I will also start a group text because it looks like Halima and D-Unique are having a really good conversation in here. So I'm going to start a group text with all of us in it. So thank you, ladies, and feel free to log off if you like.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
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 All right. I think our TCTC member is logging off too.
No.
They said if you like.
The work isn't done. That was the fun part.
Yeah. Halima, would you like to stay on for our meeting? Or you're
I got an exam.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was responding back to her comment.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put you both in a group text too.
Okay.
All right. See ya, Halima. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was awesome. Those students are absolutely amazing, and I'm very grateful that they saw fit to speak with us this morning. So I know we have committee updates that we need to do, but are there just any brief reflections around what was shared?
This is Lynn. I'm really impressed with their recommendations, and I hope that we can actually put into place most of what they've recommended, because I think those are doable.
And I agree with Juliana. In fact, this was my question. I was waiting to post it, but we can talk about it more. I want to know whether or not universities are really aware of their feedback. So, what faculty. But my sense is that for my own roles, everybody's doing their job. So faculty are teaching, and admissions officers are doing their thing, but they're not necessarily communicating. But yet all universities are worried that no students are going to show up in the fall. So this kind of communicating these kinds of concerns, I think, would be very helpful in some way, but we can come back to that.
Hey, Shayla, I know you were taking notes. Can you reiterate some of those suggestions that the students had?
Yeah, and I've also recorded the meeting, so I can get that out to everyone too. But Some of their suggestions were, you know, the facilitation of online meetings with juniors and seniors, with seniors that are going off to colleges with those college representatives. And it sounded like they were alluding to like group meetings, not necessarily individual meetings, because they do have that capability, but group meetings so that they can see others that are going off with them. And utilizing social media platforms more. So Instagram was the one that I wrote down. Seeing student faces on those social media accounts. Weekly check-ins during using the text service with different motivational and support like messaging. Recognizing students that are graduating with social media posts, kind of like doing maybe a student of the month thing. Virtual college mixer. And then I have that Emmanuel mentioned the calendar for senior events that we can also push and engage in. Also have virtual study spaces here too. And then recognizing that students are now third shifters. Some students are working third shift to complete assignments opposed to having that time throughout the day. And so how do we, you know, adapt maybe as colleges and universities? Like, how do we adapt to knowing that students are doing things later in the day because they can't log on during the day and have quiet space because they have siblings or parents or other people who need to use the Wi-Fi. So that's what I have.
I thought it was really interesting, the social media platforms, because we've been emailing and that's fine, but the response hasn't been there. So how can we do both? And I think that that's something that I, like, for sure, I will have to just be more diligent on, you know, adding that to, it's simple, you know, just essentially copying and pasting and, you know, trying something else out. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. And even, you know, how are we using text messages? You know, we really are looking forward to getting back to utilizing mass text messaging on a platform. We no longer can do that on Remind, but you know, really having those curated messages. So if a student responds yes to needing this resource, these resources are being sent through text messages rather than emails. So
yeah, I agree, Shayla. I think that we could, it doesn't take a whole lot for us to send motivational messages out to students. You know, especially what I'm hearing is that it's stressful. They're wanting, you know, they're wanting help. They want connection. And so if there's a way that we can create a meeting where people can just come on board and they can just talk about the impact of COVID on life in general, and how they can help each other out, I think is going to be pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think on the other end of that, whose ear are we going to make sure that we have so that student experience doesn't just end at the TCTC table, but we're able to take that on to, you know, the college presidents or, you know, college administrators so that so that they can be informed.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because there's a limit as to what, you know, our resources can do. And again, I was in a meeting last week with the Ferris University officials who are concerned that enrollment of current students for the fall is down, and certainly enrollment for, you know, incoming graduating seniors are down. Some of that could be just a communication issue. I just don't know that even some of the things here, like how faculty go from a discussion class to posting, knowing that students view that as a writing assignment rather than a discussion, important for faculty to consider, especially there's a chance that they'll be doing something like that. Oh. So what about, this is kind of, I don't know if it's possible. Is it possible to do something like a Kids Speak type event that we invite university personnel to listen in on and have, a panel of students present quick stories and have people listen?
That sounds awesome. I think just adding to that, if you think about how daunting it could feel to even like pick up the phone to make a phone call to ask about whatever at a college, it feels really different to do that versus, or I wouldn't even say versus an email, because that's also daunting. Like, I've had students tell me, like, how do I write an email? Like, what is it? How do I format? It's more, I haven't asked that specifically, but it's like, how do I form this email and how, like, in what type of format? And so, just thinking about that, it's really simple, but now I'm thinking about it now.
One of the things that we are finding with our Challenge Scholar students is that, we've been in touch with them, they were accepted, into a college, and the college is doing, their job in sending them notifications, but because the student isn't at the school where the counselor or the college career coordinator can check in with them and say, hey, make sure that you follow these steps, or remember decision day is coming up soon, then it's like the student is a little bit disconnected about what needs to happen next. So knowing that GRPS has that calendar of like different activities that how they're thinking about engaging the students would be really helpful, so that as others, right, like T2C or us as Challenge Scholars are trying to, remind students about different things that are upcoming to get them ready for college, we can tap into those resources as well. But it has been quite challenging to get in touch with the students by text message or email. So just maybe, how do we rely more on these, on the counselors or the school staff on what has been working for them in terms of communicating with students. And
I don't know if Emmanuel is still on. Yeah, I think when I said log off, we lost some. Probably. We lost some people. So,
I guess, what I would be saying is that we should, in fact, collate the information that we've received both on surveys as well as including the comments of the students we've heard from today, and make sure that our college and university reps have a copy of those, and make sure that those are being communicated at university tables. I mean, I think that's our role, to do that, to just raise up the voices of students that we're hearing from.
I agree. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you guys for your feedback and for the engagement with, Mr. Armstrong is still here. Okay, great. For the engagement with the students. So committee updates, Tony?
Okay, real quick. This is a great conversation. And again, I'm just really interested in getting universities to start paying attention to the student voice that we're talking about. So any kind of ideas that we have, and maybe just hitting reply well on our communications from you, from anyone on the committee, and just getting a conversation going. Mm-hmm. In terms of executive committee, we did meet last week. The main conversation, and I'm not sure where others are in terms of putting this out there, but we've been going around discussing what to do with funding that comes in and how to distribute it, and our challenges with working with the city also the challenges of hiring and promotion and the roles that we have to play again with the city structures, that we have made a decision as an executive committee to pursue creating a 501c3, and Lynn is looking into the specifics to arrange it. And so I'm not sure if we're going to eventually put it up for a vote, but I would want everyone on the committee to know that we're pursuing that option to create a distinct organization that allows us to hire, promote, and choose salary structures, et cetera, and then also to more easily be able to distribute funding without going through a third party that does require at least some percentage. It changes things a lot. Eventually, we would be bored. But anyway, that's where it's the biggest conversation we had at our executive committee. Does anybody want to add anything to that, Lynn?
Yes, I do. Just to say that we're really looking at a both and model. So to retain what works well with the city and the structure, but to have the flexibility of a 501c3 for fundraising as well as the scholarship distribution.
So if anybody has any suggestions or reservations about that, please share that with the group. Yeah. Other committee reports, Shannon, Todd, Matt?
This is Shannon, so I'll go. Since our last Leadership Council meeting, we've had 2 Student Wraparound Services Committee, one right before the stay-at-home orders and then one during. The one that we had right before the stay-at-home orders was one that we invited the Vice President of Blend. So Blend is the business leaders linked to encourage new directions. They're an affinity group that was started back in 2006. And their purpose is to, they concentrate on the need for young professionals of color to have consistent networking and development opportunities. And so we talked about how we can utilize their membership in various ways and connecting them to students. So I think it was Kenya that was on the call, the young lady that goes to University of Michigan. She suggested some mentoring opportunities, and that's exactly what one of the things that we talked about with Blend, having some Blend members connect with students, especially if students are interested in going into certain industries. So pairing them up with somebody that's already working in those industries. We talked about them having a presence during studio time, facilitating certain workshops, and also facilitating some rap sessions on topics of interest to students. We talked about them having a presence at the Mixer and whatever that looks like. In our last meeting that we had a few weeks ago, we talked about some of the things that we talked about on this call. What are some obstacles? What are some resources? And some shared some resources that they're distributing amongst their clientele. And I think some of those end up on the T2C Studio website. We talked about how colleges are communicating with students. So that was another topic of discussion similar to the topic discussion today. And then we didn't get to a discussion about the Mixer, but Shayla and I have had some conversation about what does that look like this year if it is virtual. Hopefully, if it is virtual, it won't go like that that baby-faced Teddy Riley incident. If anybody knows who those 2 people are, they're producers, and they went online initially Sunday or something. I don't know what it was. But they had like 400,000 people tune into Instagram and it's kind of like a battle. So you got this super producer that had all these hits. You got this other one, and then they would play music back and forth. But there were so many technical difficulties; it was ridiculous. But they did it again, I think yesterday or the day before, and they had like 500,000 viewers. And so, just trying to think about what the Mixer would look like. This year if it's not in person. So, yeah. And Alika, Carolina, Sue, Chris is not on here, Juliana, if you guys want to chime in, anything that I'm missing, please feel free. No?
I'm just thinking that we need we need Mariah on our committee. She was amazing.
She's definitely amazing.
Yeah, you know, the whole thing around celebrating students, which is the main purpose of the mixer. College students, again, we have to reiterate, want to be celebrated throughout their college career. Oh, there's Alika. Hey, Alika. I know you were on this call, but I didn't see your face until now. So, you know, we really want to keep the mission and the goal of the mixer, really celebrating those young people going off to college and those that are currently in college. So what that looks like this year, we'll have to discuss, but definitely we're taking notes of what young people say that they want.
I thought it was good feedback from the students, something that we talk about, but we haven't figured out how to do, which was that being really celebratory towards the students who have gotten this far. And I really like the idea of doing some type of highlight at the mixer specifically to, or even if the mixer is virtual, but specifically to those seniors who just finished. And then intentionally, and we talk about this a lot, intentionally connecting those seniors who are willing to those juniors to help them through the process. I know that was on our list to do that to mixer anyway, but the fact that the students are saying that's what they want, it lets us know that we're on the right page.
We're back to the A's, man.
That's all I got.
This is Todd. I can go next. I have to step off as well in a couple of minutes here. But I'll just be brief and say that the evaluation committee is, we officially put out an RFP for program evaluators to help us understand the impact of the studio. And we had 2 responses, and we've interviewed both at this point and are now talking with we're now talking with the references, and we're going to meet again next week to hopefully make a final decision on which one we would like to pursue, and we'll present that to you at that time. I got to log off, but thank you everybody for your work. Take care.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
See you, Todd.
Matt, you there?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I don't have any large updates, although I don't know, Lynn, if you want to share the news you shared during the executive committee regarding the grant dollars.
Yeah,
somewhat relevant to our committee, but not due to our committee, I guess.
Yeah, we got a United Way grant for the next fiscal year that will help us with our retention strategy. So we're real excited about that, as well as looking at connecting careers with our post-secondary success work.
Yeah, so that was great news that we were able to celebrate last week. One thing as we talk as an executive committee regarding the possible creation of a nonprofit, for those of you on the call that are familiar with that will really open the doors to both corporate and foundation organizations that right now limit the recipients to being a nonprofit. And so in the past, we've had to use a fiduciary for those funds. And so as we explore the creation of a nonprofit, that would really help us in this pursuit. So, excited about the prospects as it relates to that. One thing I'll do, again, similar to last time that we met, is put a call out that we would love to have a new infusion of members to the fundraising committee, as we've lost a few just due to other needs. So would love to hear if anybody is interested in that. And that's all I got.
Len, you got more to add? Have you had any communication?
Yes, the retention committee, just to let everyone know that we're going to be releasing an RFP for a consultant to develop, implement the infrastructure for our retention strategy. with higher education. And so we hope to post that soon, I would say within the next week or two. And we'll be getting that out to everybody so that you can then get that to your networks.
Is there, and this is just a thought, any chance that we could, I keep feeling uncomfortable with where universities are at, our communication with communities and students. Is there any chance that we could have perhaps a Zoom meeting for the retention pathways to kind of get a conversation going, to at least find out from them if there's anything that we can help? I mean, imagine that they may feel like they don't have the time for a meeting at this point, but perhaps in early May, or maybe even a mid-May meeting when they're when this semester is over.
Yeah, that would work. I think we could arrange to have it and just reconnect with people on that committee, update everyone in terms of what's happening. That would be fine.
Okay, think about it in terms of what the timing would look like when everybody else's availability is, but maybe we could think about like a mid-May meeting, and then they'll be more focused on at least fall enrollment rather than getting things through the semester. So,
question about that time frame. I'm just curious if summer classes will be impacted. I know that there may be some not scheduling, but I guess who's available. Is there any updates from colleges on like if there are going to be summer classes, and if that scheduling will impact, like, will they be busier now during the summer versus maybe slowing down a little bit? Like, I don't know if.
Are you talking about students or university personnel?
Personnel, staff, I would say, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the other university people off the phone, my sense is that, well, first of all, I think any instruction that happens in the summer is going to be online. I know that most, not all, have canceled in-person classes for the summer, at least through June. I'm not sure if it's officially later, but I doubt that there'll be anything in person on campuses. And I would hope that by then, I think summer instruction, at least at Ferris, a lot of it's already moved online anyway. So I don't know if there'll be any extra busy. I think that what my sense is that there's a real anxiety at universities that students are going to show in the fall, that high school seniors are going to, like Mariah said, consider gap years, consider going home, closer to home instead of going off to some group living quarters where they don't know people. Mm-hmm. And the same with even students. I think it could be a communication issue, and I don't think that the universities really know exactly why students are where they're at right now. But yet, I think, like Mariah said, like several people said, Western isn't communicating very well to its current students. I don't think my son isn't hearing much from his. He paid his deposit and hasn't heard from anybody. So I think that the timing will be, and I can't get an email response from the people that usually get so busy. So I think that maybe by May they've gotten through. So like student affairs divisions are really dealing with current students and future students, whereas in May I would think they're going to shift. That's my guess. So. But I don't think that they're going to reach out to TC for assistance right now because they're so connected to day-to-day. And I think Juliana has her experience with the Challenge Scholars, is important. Is that if those students are still kind of antsy and they have all of the supports of that staff, then, we need to do more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And MCAT can just gear up for a really big gap year.
To be completely honest with you, we are having that conversation. Like, what can Step Year do? How can Step Year help with that? Is there, a cohort that can be created for the fall? Like, I mean, yes, has a final decision been made? No, but that has definitely been talked about for sure.
Yeah, we might think about, eventually we may need to think about places like WMCAT or other institutions that could help students do remote learning while on these college campuses. Because there's maybe we have to help solve the community problems, provide some sort of atmosphere for it.
Yeah, so there's lots to think about and lots to think about fast. So, I mean, I just encourage us to continue these conversations around our committee tables, but then also, if anyone would like to have like a brainstorming session or anything outside of those committee meetings, I'm available to do that. So yeah, it's a lot coming at us fast, but I'm very grateful that we have the opportunity to know what students are experiencing so that we can make informed decisions and informed steps as we try to serve students appropriately during this time. So I think that wraps up our meeting today, but just want to say thank you guys and want to encourage everyone and reiterate that we're not just working from home. We're working from home in a pandemic. So be kind to yourself. Who says that? I think Lynn says that to me. Be kind to yourself, and be patient with yourself and give yourself grace. So, thanks again for being on. And I lost my Mr. Rogers. I'm just gonna have to email it because every time I try to find a Mr. Rogers quote, it just leaves me. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Shayla. Nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really worked out well.
Have a great rest of your day and talk with you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.